How are you this week, sir? How are you doing?
I'm good. It was strange not to see you this week.
Don't worry. Like a bus, I will come along next week.
That's true. I wanted to say thanks for hosting me. Host with the most. And to your colleagues, lovely group of people. I was thinking of defecting. Is that something I can do? Or seeking asylum there?
I mean, you were thought of fondly, so I am sure we could find space for you in our sheltering bosom.
Yes, I think just thinking of your sheltering bosom.
So many people do.
So many. Yes, I can. I imagine you've got a kind of legal responsibility too. If someone does say, "I'm seeking asylum. I'm no longer safe where I am." I don't know for what kind of reasons, academic reasons.
Well, I was having a conversation with a colleague in Europe who was talking about the influx of British academics, and she did say, ironically, but we refer to you as the refugees,
yep.
And I went, that feels bleak on so many levels, and also a little bit dismissive of people who really need to leave nation states, because this is
trivializes the real deal, doesn't it?
That's sort of where I was, and I kind of went, I kind of understand what you mean, but I don't think I can take any humour or joy from it.
Yeah,
and I felt a little joyless.
Yeah, I think the only thing about trauma is that it's context free, in the sense that trauma that people
you feel what you feel.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't, it doesn't mean one trauma's less or worse than the other, or you might say objectively from the outside. But when you're in the thick of it,
yeah. It's like pain, isn't it? I'm sure I've told you this story before, that I was having knee troubles in my late 30s. No, mid 30s, and went to the doctor.
Like 20 years ago, you mean?
Jesus Christ, yeah. Oh my God.
Not that I'm counting.
Oh my God. Yeah, and the doctor just went give me a scale of pain from 1 to 10. I was like, I don't know, 2 or 3. And he was like, why are you talking to me then? I was like, well, 10 being boiled alive. He went, no, that's not how pain scores work.
Yeah, you didn't.
You're not trying to imagine somebody else's pain. You're trying to manage how it is in your body. I was like, oh, well, I find it hard to walk upstairs. He was like, okay, so you can't
8.
bend it and put... Yeah, exactly. That's what he said. He said, it sounds like an 8. I was like, really? He said, yeah, remember, we're not comparing it to being flayed.
Hung, drawn, and quartered, I'm at it too.
He was kind of... not dismissive. That's not fair. He was a really, really great clinician. He was just sort of really stumped by the fact that I was trying to play. Yes, there we go. Bemused. Why are you trying to imagine other people's pain? Because you can't.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what you're saying about trauma.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a kind of thing to say about trauma, except I don't know, because I imagine that people, well, I know for a fact that, and you know deeply, that it's a stressed environment here in the academy, and that doesn't mean that it's not still full of all that freedom and privileges and all the stuff that's going on, but underneath all that there's that tremendous sense of what's happening tomorrow. So people don't feel safe, and you can not feel safe for all sorts of reasons. One is grenades being thrown at you, and another is that you don't know whether your job's going to be there tomorrow, and it's still the same stuff going on inside you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because the body responds the way the body responds, and I suppose it's one of those funny... Yeah, it's just one of those funny things, isn't it? Because you're right. The cushion of privilege is one thing, kind of, when you know it. But yeah, it's yeah. You're right. Yeah. I've got nothing to say about that other than
Great.
Yeah, I guess.
Should we finish?
Bye.
Bye. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
So I've been wanting to ask you something for quite some time. It's a little bit sort of a hypothetical thing. Maybe it sort of vaguely relates to what we've just been talking about. Yeah, no, it doesn't really, but maybe we can make it if we try, or not.
Okay.
These don't have to be coherent, as we've articulated.
See episode 1 through 200 and something.
And that is, let's say we can agree that I'll say gender. So looking at, let's say, women in Western cultures are by and large the victims, more than men are, of all kinds of abuse, psychological, physical, sexual, even all the way down to the small so-called, kind of everyday sexism things, that tends to go in one direction. Yeah. And I think if you're listening, not you, Lee Miller, but if you're listening, you think...
I am listening, in case you're worried.
I don't mean... I don't mean if you were listening. I mean other people are listening. If other people are listening and they're thinking, "Oh, what a load of shit," then there are lots of data to indicate those kinds of things. But even if you're still listening, not you, but other people, and you're still going whatever, then just imagine. Let's just imagine that world, right? It doesn't even have to be a fact, even though I think it is. And let's imagine a world in which women are suffering those kinds of things regularly, more often than men. Just say that. And I wanted to ask you again, hypothetically, if you had a child.
Fucking hell.
I know. And that child was born a girl. She's a girl. And and you know these things about what girls and young women and women experience. To what extent would you prime her for those experiences? And in a way, you might say, on the one hand, you want to go, this person needs to be prepared for what's coming. And then on the other hand, you might say, but I don't want it so that they're constantly on the lookout for it and seeing it when it's not there. Do you see my question?
I understand your question. I see your question. I will try to come at it with an open heart. So the first thing is, in this hypothetical, I would have Bob in the equation, who would be presumably the mother of aforementioned female child. And so I think the only thing I could do in that instance is listen to Bob and take her perspective on how best to prepare somebody who is likely to experience the world in a similar way to the way that she has experienced the world, and take the cue from Bob. So if Bob were to say, what we need to do is just pretend that none of this happens and crack on, I think I would have to take her perspective, because she's lived in a female-coded body for 52 years and is much more able to offer a perspective than I am. That would feel... and I don't want to sound woke. I know I know it's really important that I that I check it through your thermometer.
Yeah.
Wokeometer.
Yeah.
I feel that
because I'm so hypersensitive, I think about wokeness all the time. When I'm going to bed, I think, woke. I said something. All the time. Just it's constantly on my mind.
Constantly. Yeah. I think if I were to try to impose my perspective over and above, that would effectively just be gosh, I'm so sorry to say this, but it would be another form of patriarchal violence, where I'm saying I know better. And so that's what I would really, really try to counter against in my body. So
there are two things there. One is that we couldn't have a more hypothetical conversation. Of course, the conversation it comes from a particular experience I was having in a situation not so long ago. Where I was going.
I had a feeling that this was going to be grounded in something.
Yeah, but it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what that is. It's really not important. In the sense of the same, let's say, principles apply. But one thing is that the world in which Bob grew up is very different from the world that this hypothetical young girl would grow up. So that's, and I'll even use a really banal example, which is certainly in my time, women did not talk about their periods, period, right? They just did not. And that I just know from spending time around younger women, it's just not, when I say young women, late teens, early 20s, just totally comfortable with that kind of thing. That's it. You might say it's a benign or a slightly irrelevant example, but there's certainly a relationship to body and being which is different. And then the other thing, that's one thought. And then the other thing is that you also have, in your experience in growing up, been around the people who are, for want of a better word, perpetuating that violence. And I guess I was also, I think I totally agree and understand your perspective. Well, I know I understand your perspective. Whether I agree or not is irrelevant, really. But I was asking about what you think, even though I understand what you've just said, which is, well, it wouldn't matter what, you're kind of saying it wouldn't matter what I think, I would just deflect, or I would defer, I should say, to Bob.
Yeah, it would certainly be a case of deferring and trying to occupy a space of allyship, trying to do the thing that is the most useful and supportive and in dialogue with the approach that Bob would be laying down. So that would be the first thing. But of course, my lived experience would come to bear in terms of being able to talk about what it's like to be a 14-year-old boy encountering women and what those experiences of seeing
respect.
Yeah.
Seeing, not seeing,
I was going to say
etc.
seeing women through a particular filter, through a particular lens. Yeah. And you're right, Bob has lived through a time period where things were different. But I have an anxiety, if not a suspicion, that there were probably things about Bob's formative years that were maybe a little bit more open than is necessarily fully the case right now. Certainly, when we were high school and university age, the idea of evangelical Christian narratives coming out of the States just didn't exist because we weren't networked in the same way, and people who had a strong faith when we were either at school or at university were, I'm sorry to say, ostracized. They were the weirdos. The Christian society were the people that you didn't hang around with. They weren't the people who set the tenor or the tone of the mores of our small communities. And so in that respect, they were out with conversation, whereas it feels increasingly that that moral right and moral righteousness is becoming more and more centralized and endemic in the in the conversations that are happening, and I know a lot of it is coming out of the States, but it is infecting certainly British politics.
I think, yeah, but it's still. I mean, I guess I don't. I'm never sure you have a better handle on these things in relation to world politics, because I understand to some extent what's going on in the United States and the kind of the backlash, you might say, the it's not even a tilt really, it's a kind of hard push or hard to the right in relation all sorts of things, but as you say, those kinds of high moral Christian values in which women are, they're basically they're bringing up children in the home. That's clearly there's something going on there as a kind of, as a reaction to the idea that we're being taken over by, I don't know, Islam or whatever you're, and so you're sort of trying to kind of bring back the idea of the modern Christian, which is of course white,
So in some of that you're talking about there is the great replacement theory, aren't you? Yeah,
and then also more it's kind of Groyper land. I don't know how much you've read or looked into Groypers.
No. What's Groyper?
Groyper. Groypers are Yeah, it's kind of like a rebranding, for want of a better word, of the alt-right, and then again pushing that all the way to the rights, which it's openly anti-Semitic, and it's pretty. I think I could Nicholas Fuentes as the person, if you really want to dig into it. It's pretty unsavory, but it's also heavily meme-based, so it's all internet, very internet-oriented, and it's all kinds of, we're just joking.
Gotcha.
And so their kind of logo comes out of what was the frog? Pepe the Frog.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
Comes out of that. Comes out of that world. Anyway, this is not a conversation about groypers, who clearly are. I mean, it's pretty hard work just even getting a taste of that. But still, it makes me think. It's still, there's something about. I'm being a little bit dog worrying a bone here, but maybe this is just how I am, which is that we would still, hypothetically, if it was you or if it was me, be raising a daughter in this world. And so there's something about just that line between preparation and letting them get on with it, so that they're not constantly looking over their shoulder, and also then effectively orienting themselves as a victim. I know.
Yeah, I think in so many ways this feels like quite dangerous territory.
Right.
And I'm trying to work out in real time why I feel that, Simon. Because we've had all sorts of complicated and difficult questions. I think it's maybe that the difficulty that we've had with the questions is that they've always been dancing around our positionality in the world.
Yes.
And you know, it's if we talked about race, it's been through the lens of our white privileged bodies, and then you've offered resistance to that word privilege in a variety of ways, as have I. There's all sorts of, there's nuances that come from our perspective, and recognizing that it's partial and it's contextual, and it's driven by our positionality. I think this is the one where I find myself going, I'm having to do sort of two steps removed from me to get to the thinking. So I'm having to go from being a child-free 52-year-old man. We've talked about probably for some listeners ad nauseum about
super hypothetical
mine and Bob's,
in this case.
Yeah. But mine and Bob's difficulties in relationship to having kids.
So again, anything but hypothetical. So there's already I guess. Tension or weirdness there, and that kind of.
Well, it's interesting because when Bob was pregnant, particularly the 3 pregnancies that went past the first trimester, you can't not start to imagine how you parent, how you might parent. Who is this going to turn out to be? How are you going to have 2 pregnancies that went past the first trimester? Sorry, not 3. I realise that sounds like that's such a weird thing to be
precise about.
But it sort of
I understand.
I think in that moment that was a case of not wanting to sort of try and. Such a weird thing to worry about. Lay claim to more grief than I have a right to.
Oh no, I think. Wait. I think we do that. I think humans do that. I think we do that all the time. But yes, I don't think it's so weird. But yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's like, don't worry. I don't think I'm allowed 3 lots of sadness. I'm only allowed 2.
Yeah.
It's actually.
See aforementioned conversation or at the beginning of this thing about trauma and whether it really matters. Yeah.
I know exactly.
I was beaten up twice. No, 3 times. No 4.
Yeah. And it's like, well, it's such a but a weird thing that would be the interruption to my thinking. It's like trying to follow a thought, and there's a really loud bit of my brain going, "Don't you dare claim more space in grief than you are allowed. Don't you dare." So I think you're right. The abstraction for me is complicated by the fact that for a moment it was nearly not abstract.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, maybe it's because I know that one of them was a girl. Maybe that's an interesting nuance, but I don't think it is, because I don't think this conversation, Simon, is actually filtered through that. So I'm sort of I'm thinking about.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I interrupted.
Okay, I was just thinking. I'm thinking about this in relationship to the total imaginary. I'm not casting myself back to the imagined moment of imagining a child, if that makes sense. That's too many imagined in that sentence, because they were so much more about division of labour, taking her to school, those kinds of things. It wasn't we hadn't projected far enough into and how do we inoculate her against the world, because also we are talking about pregnancies that are, gosh, at least now, I mean, over a decade, well over a decade ago, some of them. Yeah. So from Bob's mid 30s into early to mid 40s, was that kind of that window of time, which is like, gosh, that is, saying that out loud is really stark. We're 10 years ago. Wow. At least. So the world was different then. Because I think Bob's, yeah, of course. Bob lost her last pregnancy before Trump came into office.
We were still in the halcyon days of Barack Obama.
So the world was really different then. Really, really different. Or at least it felt different to us at the time. I mean, there may well be people listening into this and going, no, it really wasn't, Lee. You weren't experiencing things in the way. So fair point.
Can I say, just God, it pisses me off how much American politics infects the rest of the world. Like, it really does annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Talk about just why you can't make America great again without just disturbing everything else. Just stay on your own bloody mat, America.
It's lovely yoga reference there. So just to circle back, so I can just put a full stop on something that I opened up. No, I'm sorry, because I did go sort of wander down a very circuitous path. But just to say, I think because I'm trying to imagine it 2 steps removed from myself, that's why this feels really unsound under my feet.
I think I was, and I get, maybe I chose the wrong, in the case, because of what you've just been talking about. I didn't need to choose gender as the kind of as the hypothetical conversation. It could have been other kinds of forms of thinking about this relationship. And I think, perhaps if I were to say, maybe a way to say this is, one of the tremendous, and I will use the word privileges I've had growing up, is that I haven't had to look over my shoulder wondering what's going to happen, or that I haven't assumed that something bad is going to happen to me. And so that's a tremendous thing. And so, and it's not that difficult to imagine what it's like not to have that, but also wanting to protect someone from that. And so I guess that's just what I'm trying to get at, really, is this. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't actually. Maybe I should have thought about it a little more and thought, this might be quite difficult to talk about, because I don't know. I really don't know, and I could see if you were having to do that dance, I could certainly see, kind of rationales for both ends of the spectrum. But and so I wanted to ask you.
Hey, were you worried about difficult to talk about because I was talking about kids, as in pregnancies? Because that don't be, because that was not what was landing on me. I think I was getting that was kind of like a set of brackets that I opened up rather than the way I started to respond to the question.
Yeah, no,
I was responding to the question fully in the abstract.
Yeah,
Because, you know,
because
it
was really. I mean, it is.
Oh, yeah.
It
And I
was,
was
and it
imagining
is,
like...
and it will be.
Exactly. And it's like, I was imagining like, oh, I've got a 14-year-old. I'm not imagining I've got a 2-year-old in the story of the way you asked the question. Just to be clear, I didn't want you to go away going, oh, shit.
Well, I'm next week. You asked me something. No, I don't know. Whatever.
I did have something that I wanted to talk about.
I didn't even ask.
No, it's fine.
I just
never
jumped
asked.
on this conversation.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I am just going to, and this may be something because we'll see each other, and if I remember to buy batteries, we can see each other and do this in real life.
Oh yes.
Is
that this week?
and
Holy shit!
That's this week. Yeah. And my question was going to be, I think about how thick your skin is.
Oh,
because
I
had a realization
I've been
yesterday.
a lot about that recently.
Yeah, maybe we can pick this up because I had a realization yesterday that I think my skin
is getting thicker,
really thin.
Oh,
no! I have absolutely got calluses where things just do not occur to me. But there are other things where it's just like, oh, it's paper thin.
Yeah.
Paper thin.
Yes. I think that is interesting, especially if we bring up the topic of defensiveness as well.
Which I think I definitely dropped into. Okay,
so
more on this next time.
Can't bloody wait. Also, meanwhile, for your homework, go and look up groipers just to make yourself feel pretty fucking ill. Like really.
Okay.
Really ill.
Okay, so I hope that's homework for everyone, not just for me.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Really.
So I will apologise in advance for anybody who feels icky.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You just do not want that in your life. I'm sorry to have introduced it.